Welcome to the Amakitia Duo's Play Pretty series, episode 6. My name is Diane Barger, and I am professor of clarinet at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln.
And my name is Denise Gainey, and I'm professor of clarinet at the University of Alabama at Birmingham.
And together we are the Amakitia Duo. In this video series, we're going to talk about the Hee-Dee method. This is a pedagogical concept of having the embouchure set and the air in motion before introducing the tongue and making the first sound with the clarinet. This particular method of playing the initial note of a phrase, no matter what its style, was a concept developed by the great pedagogue Stanley Hee-Dee. Mr. Hee-Dee referred to this as the Hata Attack, and this concept is discussed in Elizabeth Gunnlaugson's wonderful doctoral treatise on the pedagogy of Stanley Hee-Dee. And there are some excerpts in, I think, a two-series article that Elizabeth did in the Clarinet Journal of the ICA. And there's also a DVD produced by Ball State University in 2005 called The Hee-Dee Legacy, where he also discusses this. I have an article entitled The Hee-Dee Method that was published in the March 2018 issue of the Clarinet Journal of the International Clarinet Association, back when I served as the ICA Pedagogy Chair. I call it the Hee-Dee method simply because of my approach of using articulation as speech on the reed and my preference for using a D consonant over the T consonant, as well as maintaining the tongue in an E position. By the way, you can also read that article about speech on the reed in the 2017 September issue of the Clarinet, and we will most likely create a video about that in the near future for our Play Pretty series. This Hee-Dee concept is what we teach our students so they can always rely on the initial note to speak with clarity, rhythmic precision, and security of response in any work. So let's go back to this idea of having the air in motion before you play your first note. As Mr. Hee-Dee would say, quote, "If your tongue is on the reed, there is nothing in motion, everything is static," end quote. To set the air in motion, one must first set the embouchure. We've already discussed embouchure in episodes 2 and 3 of our Play Pretty series, so I won't repeat all of that now. So I'll just continue on from that idea of having a set embouchure and then creating the sound. So once you set the embouchure and you have the cushioned bottom lip and engaged upper lip muscles that press down to accept the mouthpiece wedge into its fixed opening, take a breath through the opening of the sides of the mouth. As the corners of the mouth cushion forward to form a rubber band seal around the mouthpiece, begin blowing air into the mouthpiece. This is the he part. And note, the air in that you breathe is immediately expelled out slowly without being stopped by the tongue on the reed or holding the air in the lungs. As the air speed increases to the point at which it causes the reed to vibrate enough to make a sound, that is when you introduce the tongue stroke D. So it's this idea of going Hee-Dee. The benefits of this style of creating the initial sound includes absolute precision, improved and stable intonation to the beginning of the note, and overall control of the most delicate of notes to the most exuberant of entrances. It also encourages the idea of having the embouchure set before taking a breath, which I find to be a crucial importance for clarinetists of all ages and levels. Players not using this method often find themselves setting the embouchure after they make the initial sound, using a more clamped jaw at the start of the sound and opening the jaw when the tongue touches the reed, resulting in a sharp intonation to the start of the note as well as an unstable embouchure. When first learning this method, I suggest just taking the mouthpiece and barrel to try this systematic approach. Note that it will take just a little amount of air before the reed will begin to vibrate. So be patient as you find that magic moment to introduce the tongue, the D, to create the initial entrance. Pay special attention to set the embouchure before introducing the mouthpiece to the mouth and maintain the same open jaw concept as when you began. You will hear some air go through the mouthpiece barrel combination when you try this, and be assured as you get more adept at using this approach that this process will speed up and you will hardly notice that initial air before a sound is made. So I'm going to demonstrate this, and I'm going to do it kind of slowly at first, so hopefully you can hear the he and the D. And then you just get faster at it. And if you make the mistake of the tongue not quite placing the tongue on the reed before the sound starts, that's okay. We all do that. Again, you will find the magic amount of airspeed that is needed to create the sound before you introduce the tongue. So as you become more proficient with just the mouthpiece and barrel, then you need to try the approach with the entire instrument, keeping all of the previously mentioned points in mind. And I know Denise is going to demonstrate that in a little bit.
All right, so I would like to share a variation of this pedagogical approach taught by Cal Opperman, used especially for more articulated passages. Diane has already described the formation and setting of the embouchure, so I'll just discuss the method itself. Cal taught what I call the Hee-Dee, Hee-Dee. So, or as I described to younger students, the blow dart, where the air goes through the clarinet prior to the production of the sound, as in the Hee-Dee, but the tongue touches the tip of the reed to allow the pressure to build so that when the tongue releases, deet, the reed is ready to vibrate at the appropriate frequency for the articulation, giving us consistency of tone production and intonation. It's really just a sped up Hee-Dee. This way, the sound is consistent from the very first note, not a couple of notes later, as often happens when we don't set the air prior to releasing the sound. This ensures that the embouchure and air are both set, ready for consistent articulation and tone quality. I use and teach the Hee-Dee method, so beautifully described by Diane primarily, but Cal's approach is a great way to prepare the embouchure and the air for articulated passages. I have students practice both approaches without the clarinet to begin with, just saying Hee-Dee, Hee-Dee, and then moving to just the barrel and mouthpiece, as Diane demonstrated, and then finally to the full instrument. So they're building that muscle memory without having to hold the weight of the instrument. It's typical that some students will initially have a double articulation in their first attempts as they get used to this, but they will quickly pass this issue as they practice the technique and build muscle memory and become more comfortable with the process. The most important takeaway from Diane, what we have discussed today, is that we're actively preparing the embouchure, the air, and the oral cavity to pave the way for our best tone from the very first note. So again, just showing you the Hee-Dee, again, a sped up Hee-Dee. So I'm just got the support going, I'm supporting, and I released the tongue to release the air. And I try to make it really clear with students that we think of it not as an attack of the note, but a release of the sound, a little more gentle. So there you go.
Awesome! So make sure to visit our Amikitia Duo website at theamikitiaduo.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
And if you wish to contact us about a future video subject you'd like for us to address, or would like to request a virtual masterclass with us via Zoom, please email us at theamikitiaduo@gmail.com. Play pretty.
Play pretty.